So let's see. Let me actually get into the most interesting of these players. It's gonna be. I feel like we should watch. Let's watch Leo versus Samsora. This is the game that Samsora won. I feel like a lot of what their matches come down to is how well can Samsora not commit, and how good is Leo at constricting his opponent's options and making sure that Samsora has no way to go, like has to commit eventually. And a lot of this is like Samsora. What makes Peach top tier in your opinion? Peach is overtuned. Character wins in close range. Nothing to do about it. Like, she has hitboxes that are literally over before you realize it, lead into 60%, safe on shield, mix you up on shield even, possible out of shield with extreme speed, broken. And then in the mid range, Peach is trash, actually useless. On long range, yeah, Peach has ability to become one with the ground with her box shifts. That's a huge one as well. She's hard to punish. But at long range, she plucks turnips, which is very hard to beat even if you're a projectile camper. And then in mid range, she becomes a monster when she has turnips, because these things are hard to clank. Even if you catch them, you're in an awkward situation. In a situation where you're gonna get mixed up even. And if you shield them, she gets pressure. If you get hit by them, she gets a combo. Basically, she becomes a mid-range monster. So on long range, she becomes a mid-range monster. And if you play close range, you lose. So the only range you can play versus her is mid-range. That's exactly what we're already seeing. Like, if you want to look at how Leo approaches this, he knows Samsora was gonna pluck a turnip, right? Because they want to prepare for the long range, because the game starts at the long range. Throws it, gets pressure, fails, and then MKLeo rolls out, immediately tries to establish the mid-range. This is mid-range. Goes for the interception, goes for the mid-range projectile, goes for the interception. Basically, he's playing this mid-range as much as he can. There's always, like, look at the range between these two players. Like, from the beginning. And one of the things about this matchup is because Joker is that much faster than Peach, Joker has more control over which range you're playing. And because he's fast, he's also good at pressuring Peach after Peach plucks a turnip. So that's one of the things. One of the things where, for example, Shulk does less well than Joker in this matchup. Or even name any slower top tier. I think Shulk is like the slowest, right? Wolf has dash tech. They're really bad at pressuring Peach when she plucks a turnip. But yeah, look at the way MKLeo controls space and the way he's using his movement to make sure that Samsora cannot control space. Not just movement, but also hitboxes. So this is an interception. This means that if Samsora is hasty, there's no close quarter here. And even if he's not hasty, this is very low committal, right? So there's that. Then there's Iha constraining movements in mid-range more. Aerial anti-approach, because he knows Peach doesn't really have good ground approaches, right? If Samsora was, like had the read, he could have plucked a turnip here. But Samsora's playstyle is based a lot around being ready to whiff punish things. Not per se directly. So not even with like a dash attack, but also with stuff like a forward air or just setting up a close range situation, which also counts as a punish. So look at that. Even if Leo is retreating, he's immediately closing the gap again. Another anti-approach. And this is, look at the range. They're so consistently keeping the mid-range and then just going YOLO in the stupidest way. D3 top 1. No. He's one of the best penguins, though. Here's the thing, though. I think this is like the worst choice Samsora could have made. So this is a very obvious mistake. Very obvious mistake by Leo. Samsora misses the punish. Could have cancelled his float, gone for the grab, stuff like that. But this scenario, this is good for Samsora. Like, in this scenario, this is the ideal situation for Samsora. There's no room for Leo to control space here because there's no room for him to retreat. So Samsora retreating all the way, which is the worst possible thing. Samsora foregoes the optimal option in favor of going for what is comfortable with him. And playing the way that is comfortable for you is good, of course. I would say at this level, it's not. But I mean, obviously it worked out. In this scenario, though, he kind of mixes it up, and instead of retreating fully, retreated part way. Leo tries to keep that mid-range space, does not want to give Samsora room to pluck a turnip, as Samsora immediately reacting to it. Very good. And now MKLeo going back to the mid-range, and immediately as soon as it goes wrong, back to the mid-range. I feel like that was an obvious mistake. I might have been an input error. But I feel like this is why MKLeo is such a good player. Is that he very consciously puts himself in the types of ranges where his character is strongest, and he does not commit. Usually, so this set he loses, and it's because of these type of commitments, like that. Like, that's stupid. That's not what Leo normally does, and the reason why he loses is because Samsora is so patient. He's so patient that he can wait out these rare moments in which Leo commits and get some mileage out of it without overcommitting himself. So that is Samsora's strength, is you cannot outweigh him. He's always waiting for an opportunity without having to commit. Even versus MKLeo, though normally MKLeo is a little bit more patient than this. Good call out by Samsora. Look at this. Look at how much fake movement is in Samsora's game plan. Eventually, like all of that, what we've seen so far, like even this, like forward, back, empty float, forward, double jump, float, cancel, platform, drop off, backdash. All of that is just to get that turnip. See, I really enjoy this set. I feel like a lot of it, these two players are very similar in their approach. They really try to not commit and capitalize to the maximum in advantage state. It's just that Leo is better at moving. So I feel like Leo is way better at waiting and utilizing his movement, while Samsora is better at actually waiting, like doing nothing and reacting to stuff. And Samsora also has a better character. Like, I think Peach is straight up better than Joker because of her close quarter combat. Of course, when Joker has Arsene, Joker is a better character. So Arsene comes out and the game just breaks open. So that's one of the things about Leo that really makes Joker the perfect character for him. Because he did this with Ike as well, like this movement stuff. But Ike was, one, he was slower. And two, when Arsene comes in, Leo gets to pressure his opponent way more and get way higher reward off of small interactions. So a playstyle like this usually leads to small wins. But if you have Arsene or if you're Peach, you get huge wins. One of the reasons why this character works so well for why both these characters work so well for these players. You talked about a way to play around Arsene. Can you elaborate with this set as an example? The right way to play around Arsene already happened in the first talk. So let's go back to that and give that a look. There's the recovery. Arsene is ready to pop. So what does Samsora do? He stands here. And he does nothing. He throws out his turnip, does nothing. Dashes back. Low commitment move. Shields. Dash back, gets hit by side B, is okay. It's actually not super okay, because he gets trumped here. But like, that is the way you try to play around Arsene. So you don't do anything. You don't do anything, and a lot of Joker players then start to throw out projectiles. Because the reason his projectiles normally work, I assume Jokers will get antsy to use Arsene before he leaves, so the counterplay would be to wait and react to those options. So that's part of it. So it is that would be really player dependent, of course. So Joker, the reason Joker uses that mid-range projectile heavy gameplay is because it's really good at beating other options. It's really good at beating your jump. It's really good at beating your horizontal approach. But when you don't want to approach, when you don't want to interact, the projectiles start becoming very inconsequential. So a lot of it is the guns, which are decent shield pressure, but whatever. The side B, when it hits your shield, it doesn't explode. So it's not good versus shield either. So a lot of it is not interacting. And your mindset has to be, I want to not interact here and just let it go. And then your mix-up becomes to interact. When Joker assumes that you're gonna not interact, they're gonna have to overshoot their approaches or use high commitment approaches like dash attack or down tilt to hit you regardless. And in those type of scenarios, when you throw out like a rising aerial or a dash attack yourself, or like whatever your burst range option is, you will intercept them before they can overshoot. So the interaction versus Arsene is not interacting, your mix-up is interacting. It's that simple. It's honestly that simple. And then once you do get a hit on him, you have to push it as far as possible. Like, without risking too much, of course. Like, Joker can, if he can like neutral air dodge and then rising back air you to reversal, you've probably overcommitted. But it's very important to make the most out of his disadvantage when he does have Arsene. Joker's always losing unless he gets the direct hit in. And even if he hits you with like a gun, with like guns, that doesn't matter. Like, getting hit with guns, if you, or side B even, that doesn't matter. Like, if you get hit with side B and guns only, you did well. You did well. Honestly, if I get like 70% from one Arsene, I count it as a win. Like, that's a 1 interaction right there. And one of the things you have to focus on, of course, is to KO Joker before he gets a second Arsene. So that's the 2 things. So first off, limit damage control when he gets his first Arsene, and 2, KO him before he gets his second Arsene. So you have to pick some high risk, high reward options to really ensure that he doesn't get a second Arsene. So yeah, all characters can not interact with Arsene, and then mix up the interaction where necessary. So that's one of the reasons why this character Joker works so well for Leo, is down guns. Because so a playstyle like Leo's, where you play very non-committal, you will eventually, because you're so safe, you will eventually put yourself in a corner. In this scenario, he got hit into the corner, but you will eventually put yourself into a corner because you're taking low-risk options, which often capitalize on the opponent advancing and you doing something retreating and then being able to react to it. So his playstyle means that he reacts a lot, because when he reacts, he can, retreats a lot, because when he retreats, he can react to his opponent, and that is safe, right? Because it's like, okay, so say you're playing rock, paper, scissors, right? Rock, paper, scissors, whatever. Someone wins. But Leo, when he retreats, he gets to see what his opponent does and then react to that, right? And if it's not something that he can punish, he simply loses some stage. However, if you consistently play this way, you eventually put yourself into the corner. And in that scenario, having these down guns, especially from a platform, just gets you out of that situation for free. And now he's back to center stage. He was right here, landed here, down guns, no risk, like almost 0 risk, very low risk. And that is why this character works so well for him. And honestly, why like I have a very similar playstyle, and I would love to play this character. I feel like Shulk can do a lot of similar things. Down gun is like a poor man's flip jump. Yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah. Zero suits do this a lot as well. Like Mars doesn't, but zero suits do this a lot as well. Yeah, Yuffie, you play very similar as well. But I feel like the difference between, I feel like your play is more similar to what Samsora does. So what Samsora does is he's very patient, and he never commits forward. Meanwhile, for Leo, his base gameplay is stay mid-range, retreat when it's safe, and his burst range is oftentimes very low commitment and based on like minor reads. So I read that my opponent will react to me short hopping and shield, so he does a short hop forward and he anti hop grabs you, stuff like that. You don't do that type of stuff a lot. I feel like your playstyle is very similar to Samsora, where it's a lot of patience and a lot of waiting until the moment where your opponent outplays themselves. So like we saw with Leo at the start of the set, he downgunned over the platforms. That's an error that he made on his own. Nothing that Samsora did really force that out, but that was Leo thinking he got a little bit of a read or maybe a misinput, I don't know. And the reason why you need something like downguns when you play like Leo is because you're so movement heavy. And if you're movement heavy, you're going to constantly deal in the currency of stage control. Meanwhile, Samsora is like, if you come close to me, I'll fuck you up. And if you don't, I'll just stand here until you come close to me. And his movement is way shorter bursts of movement. Which, of course, I mean, that's partially because of his character, right? But that's a very critical difference in their playstyles. Yep, very good cornering by Samsora, and this is I said earlier when Leo was in the corner, it was bad that Samsora retreated all the way. So this is Leo getting put into the corner, and this time Samsora capitalizing very well. So look at that, Samsora, lots of empty movement again, kind of reminiscent of the start of the game. There he saw the gun, he tried to capitalize on it. I think that was a very good option by Samsora. Look at this, saw the gun, look at that mix up in the movement. He was right here, a second later he's in his face. And I think he was one frame too late, because if I go one frame forward, another frame forward, and there's the shield. So maybe the hurtbox shift actually made that back air whiff, but that was a matter of frames. Because this looks like a hit to me. This looks like a hit to me. At the end of the day, though, Leo getting this grab, just barely. This is the worst you can be in. So yeah, he got a second Arsene in this stock, and that's what we were talking about. You need to limit your opponent to one Arsene. You need to make hard reads to ensure that he doesn't. As Shulk, I don't even hit him unless I have Smash Art available. When they're at the corner, like, normally I don't support going for like smash reads, but versus Joker sometimes it's just necessary to ensure that he doesn't get a second Arsene. So let's go to the second game, because this game is all but over. So, another one of those mid-range interactions. Leo actually going to the close range, and that is, you know why? That's because Samsora whiffed. Leo was already going back to the mid-range, sees the whiff, understands that Samsora now wants to do a damage control, goes immediately back in, extreme reaction time. This is like one of the sickest reactions. And waits, like, the brain in this guy. He knows that Samsora wants to avoid getting punished rather than hit him. So he goes for the wait. And there's the punish. Very well done by Leo. Sick interaction too. Now we're back to mid-range. And this mid-range is suffocating because Peach is in the corner. So now it's all under Leo's control. Movement and spacing is very important, but you can always only control your own space, your own movement, and the only situation in which you have total control of the stage is when your opponent's in the corner, because in that scenario they have to take a lot of risk to even get out of the corner. Oh, look at that. That's what I was talking about. The small reads, right? This is not... He jumps over because he knows ground floats are scary. And then he knows, okay, Samsora is going to be scared. Small read, just reading, going for the empty hop. Very smart. One of the things, Leo gets lauded so much for being a prodigy, but he almost never hard reads his opponent. He used to do that a lot, but this is a lot of this reaction, right? Very small reads. And that's why he's consistent, right? The key to winning consistently is to be good at winning those small interactions. Like when Samsora whiffs, you dash back, react, dash forward, know that he's waiting to do the damage control, and then shield, right? It's stuff like that that really differentiates the goods from the greats. It's just very well done. Look at that. Even understanding that his back air was not a frame trap there. That's like, how much do you play the game? Look at this. This air dodge, if I was Leo, I would have done a falling back air here. But he doesn't, because he knows it's not a frame trap and shield would be on time. Samsora even thought that he would do a landing back air, and he plays Leo all the time. Insane intelligence. Empty landing to optimize his frame advantage. Samsora, not wanting to be in the corner, jumps over the burst range options. Instead, because of this empty hop, he gets even more time to set up his advantage state here. Doesn't react to the jump, because, I mean, that's unreactable at this point. Instead, goes back to the mid-range, because this distance would have been a close range scenario. Goes back to the mid-range, reacts to the jump. I'm gonna tell you guys, he's gonna wait here and see. Wait until Samsora uses his double jump resource. See, he walks forward and waits. This is a wait. Samsora knows that the wait was coming, goes for a landing forward air. Still, this situation is advantage for Leo. Goes for the anti-hop. He knew the roll was coming, or he knew it was a possibility because the roll in this scenario. Okay, so let me go through the mind of the average player, right? And I say average, but this is every player. So we're back here. You can see the forward air hits high, and this is already like Peach's least safe aerial. Anyone in this scenario would try to directly pressure Samsora. And what does directly pressure on this position lose to? A roll. Leo does not directly pressure Samsora. Samsora would be here, Leo's here, that's outside of grab range in this scenario. So he didn't even jump with the intent to anti-hop grab here. He didn't even want to directly pressure. He was just like, I'm gonna wait until you want to get out of the corner, and then I'll hit you. And that's what he does. Man's a beast. Big brain. Like, I can come up with this kind of strategy if I'm watching this and pausing every 5 seconds. But this man is doing this kind of stuff constantly. In real time. Insane. This is why you don't play close range with Peach. Look at this. Aerial, 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 aerial. She did 5 aerials before Leo even got to say hello. So there's back air, the side B. In this game, I mean, let's be honest, this game is all but over, right? I don't know who wins this actually. I think it's Leo. So let's just skip to the final game, because now Samsora should win 3 games in a row, which is impressive adjustment. And let's see what the accumulation of that effort turned into. So I feel like the main thing Samsora has to do here is he has to stop waiting so much, because while it is technically an answer to Leo's playstyle to wait him out and wait for those moments where Leo does react, because of the difference in their characters, it's not working out for Samsora. So here's Leo still establishing that mid-range, using the guns and the side B to really ensure that Samsora doesn't approach. And when he does approach, he reacts to it, right? He shields at first because, you know, like, honestly, he's in a bad situation here. After the whiffed gun, because Samsora jumped over it. Very good read by Samsora. Small read, one of those indirect interactions that I talked about before. And now he shields to stop the forward air on air. Instead, Samsora down airs. Leo reacting not to the aerial, but to the fact that he hasn't been hit yet, goes for a jump and anti-approaches. A full hop, because if that was a forward air, he would have jumped over the forward air. And if it was in air, he would have still shielded it. So that just goes to show how much experience Leo has in this matchup. Lots of reaction coming on here. And that wasn't a read, it was just a reaction to the situation. And this is like, honestly, as soon as Samsora has that turnip, there's no reason to play the mid-range anymore. You just want to get rid of the turnip and then return to the mid-range. So once again, we see Leo establishing even more range here. The tip of his side B doesn't use that a lot. Look at that. Really keeping Samsora at a long range here. The mix-up with the approach, very good by Leo. And look at that. Just an impeccable first stock so far. And then... oh... Does anyone have the music for the dancing guys with the coffin? The main thing Samsora should do is, instead of taking those moments to wait for his opponents, just pluck a turnip and go from there. And he's doing that a lot more in this game already. So let's look at like the defining moment of that first stock, because Leo just dominates that stock. Gets hit once on a missed grab on the normal getup, but then he gets Arsene, gets punished for a whiffed counter. And now, look at that. He's playing that mid/long range when Samsora's on the platform. He's expecting Samsora to play the way he's played the entire time, which is defensive. And Samsora even does. He goes for the retreating movement, mixes it up, goes over the projectile just barely. That was an inch off. Look at that. And goes right under the skirt and gets the punish. This is stupid. Like, there it is, the read on the jump. You know, that's Peach. That's Peach, honestly. So a lot of Joker players is actually a thing you can apply to your own games. A lot of Joker players will jump from the ledge because when they jump, they have down guns available. And down guns, obviously, their best tool in this advantage. So You can use that in your own gameplay as well. Covering the opponent's optimal choices is how you start learning a matchup. So, fun fact, Arsene is actually a comeback mechanic because you get more Arsene meter if you're behind in stocks. Not a lot of people know that. Not a lot of people know that, but it's true. So this is exactly what you want to do. Just focus on not interacting. Leo calls out to jump. That's fine. That's the end of Arsene. Took 50%. And that's it. Gets a nice reversal with the float cancel right there. Good recovery by Leo. So back to neutral. Look at that. Samsora now dashing back, going for the turnip. And that's something he didn't do at all in the first game. He would dash back and wait, but now he goes straight for the turnip. And this is the reason why this matchup is actually pretty bearable for Peach. Because she can use turnip to beat Joker's mid-range. So turnips, I think the turnip usage is really the defining factor that I've seen so far. And of course that first stock being basically a 0 to death in Samsora's favor because of that jump read. Gets the turnip on the recovery. Leo with the miss time right there. And that's basically an SD. I feel like that's it, right? I think the takeaway for Samsora's playstyle is that when you wait enough, eventually your opponent will outplay themselves. Let's talk about some of the ways that this game is designed, right? There's two things to consider. The first is this game has a lot of input lag and the moves have relatively low lag. It's very hard to react to things. On top of that, because of the way defensive play works, so like retreating for example, you can obviously not react to moves itself, but you can react to the movement of the opponent and the intent of the opponent. And that's what Leo is doing. So he's retreating and he's reacting to the way the opponent is positioning themselves. And the most consistent way that you can see both of these players use to win is to wait. And to not commit too hard. Because committing means playing rock, paper, scissors. And playing rock, paper, scissors means that there's a chance that you lose. And if there's a chance that you lose, you're not going to win consistently. And of course, there's always going to be a chance that you lose. I know. But the best players will try to minimize these rock, paper, scissors situations and create more situations in which they can react either directly to the move or to the situation and create a better situation in which they have less chance of losing the interaction. On top of that, and that's point 2, this game has greatly, and I mean greatly, homogenized options. And what I mean with that is that the options in this game are very close to each other in power. So in Smash 4, if any of you played that, you had top tier Sonic doing spin dash, top tier Sheik doing forward air, top tier Diddy doing banana, top tier Corrin doing instapin, top tier Mewtwo doing shadow ball and down to the forward air. All of these options are extremely strong in neutral. In this game, there are hardly any tools that are that powerful in neutral, and the few that are there are on zoners. So zoners play an entirely different game than the rest of us. That is why you can see people complain that zoners are carried. They're not, but they do play a very different game than we do. Like Samus plays her own rock, paper, scissors. Pac-Man plays his own game plan. Duck Hunt plays his own game plan. None of them play the same way that a Palutena or a Peach would. So there's no individual strong options in neutral, which means that it's very easy if you interact with someone that you're gonna lose, because there's no options that are strong enough to consistently win neutral the way that characters in Smash 4 did. But yeah, for all the other characters, it's just like the options are so it's so hard to say which one will win in like a close quarter situation, unless you're Peach, that you would rather just play on reaction. So this is why you see MKLeo and Samsora do so well. They're both defensive players that focus on reaction. They don't go for interactions that are inconsistent, that they do not know for sure that they have an advantage in. And I feel like the art of winning consistently is becoming good at finding situations in which you definitely have the upper hand. Light Strider AP, thanks for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy it. Just gonna get into the next game.